A client asked me to rip out his bathtub, and he ended up with a second bathroom out of the deal. Same house, same footprint, nothing added. At the time, he was renting this place out as a Airbnb in Cape Coral, and there was a large tub in the middle of this room. Now, it was centered on the wall, and the way it was designed, it had a platform that the tub sunk into, so it was a sunken tub, and there were steps around it, and they were all tiled. What we ended up doing was removing that tub. We ended up building a nice size shower, some built-in cabinetries for clothes, and then there was a separate walk-in closet that was his closet, nobody else had access to. This job wasn't something that happened recently. This was a few years back that we did this project. And this was the first time really I had a homeowner ask us to remove a tub. Well, he was ahead of the game because now these tubs are not something that people are desiring unless they really use the tubs for whatever purposes they want to use it for. That being said, since the tub took so much space in this one room, the homeowner ended up getting an additional bathroom out of the deal. It's crazy how that one fixture that nobody was probably using held that whole floor plan hostage. Welcome back to Real Talk Remodeling with MERLINO Consulting. I'm MERLINO, and today we're going to talk about 7 bathroom upgrades I regularly talk clients out of. When certain topics are brought up, I like to be very honest with the homeowner and guide them through that process of understanding what the trends are and understanding what's all involved if they wanted to add something that they didn't have. For example, if they wanted to add a tub, I have to ask all the right questions to make sure it's something that they are really going to use, or are they just going to install it and let it collect dust like a lot of people do? This isn't a cheap out episode. Most of the people I talk out of these things can afford them without blinking. A bathroom is a small room with a fixed amount of money in it. And every dollar going to a fixture that you'll probably use twice a year is a dollar that didn't go into vanity, countertop, or fixture upgrades. And that's the part you touch every morning, in the afternoon, at night, whenever you're home and you're using the bathroom. That's what you're touching and feeling and seeing. Contractors. Some of this may sound like an objection you already hear weekly. The client you talk out of one thing and redirect them usually spends more money with you, not less. Number 1, and it's the one I get the most pushback on, the freestanding soak-in tub. They photograph beautifully, nobody uses them. The tub is $500 to $7,000, depending on the material and before the floor mount filler. So the floor mount fillers could go from $300 on the low end to $2,000 on the higher end and beyond. And these numbers are before the rough-in stuff. Installed, I see $2,000 to $10,000, depending on what's all involved. In my area, most homes are a concrete slab, so the weight is not really an issue. The main thing is cutting the concrete, trenching, running sanitary lines. There is quite a bit more work involved when you are adding any type of plumbing. Then you need to consider the clearance and needs on all 4 sides. In most cases, when you do have space for a tub, you also have space to have a larger shower, and you could make that shower very feature rich with body sprays and all that stuff. An extended shower or extra large shower is kind of pointless if you don't have multiple shower heads or body sprays or other things you could do in the shower. If I had to choose between an extra large shower and a tub, I prefer to go with a tub, even though I might not use it as much. But if you think of it, if you have an extra large shower, are you going to use the whole shower? You're going to stand in one spot, wash your body, and get out. So the rest of that shower space is useless either way. Keep this in mind. The tub is not a trend anymore, but do not just follow trends because it's a trend. Follow what your heart desires. The trends are there for you to understand how things look like, how things go, and for you to try to follow it so you're not designing something that's way out of date. But you also got to consider what you like. I'm not against tubs. Small kids, put in a tub. Only full bath in the house? You need one. And resale will most likely punish you if you delete one. But if the real reason is photos, I'll keep asking that bath question until I get an honest answer. Number 2, relocating plumbing for a layout change that isn't solving any problems. Leave the fixtures roughly where they are. And plumbing on a standard bath runs $1,500 to $3,000. Move a toilet, a shower drain, or a sink, and we're opening floors and walls and reroute drain lines at the right slope. $3,000 to $8,000. On a slab, which is most of what I deal with here in Southwest Florida, we're cutting concrete, the price and the mess both go up. Sometimes it's worth it. If it's a broken layout, or maybe the door swing is hitting a vanity, or maybe it's a shower in a house that somebody can't use, then at that point you can move it. Sometimes the designs are not that great. That's when you could move some things around and make it better. Moving a toilet 3 feet for a per to your sideline buys you almost nothing, and a guest or a buyer would never notice. Keep the layout and you save roughly 20 to 30% of the project. One more thing. If this show is useful to you, please hit that like, subscribe, and share button. It costs you nothing and it definitely helps the channel grow. Number 3, the steam shower. I personally haven't worked with too many clients that ask for this, but what I do know is that the generator is $2,500 to $6,000 installed, and the generator is the easy part. Steam means a vapor-tight enclosure, sloped ceiling so condensation can run off instead of dripping on your head, a dedicated circuit, and an accessible spot for the generator that won't be a nightmare in 5 years. If it's done wrong, it's a moisture problem inside your walls, and you won't even find out about it until your tiles start moving. Homeowners that have steam love it. It seems like in most cases, every one of them was using steam at a gym or a spa before they even decided they wanted one built in their own house. The ones who regret it thought they'd become that person after the remodel. It normally doesn't work that way. Number 4 is where geography matters, so listen for your climate. Radiant floors run $10 to $20 a square foot installed, so $1,500 to $4,500 on most bathrooms, plus the electrical. Here in Florida, I really don't have to talk anybody out of it because they're not really asking for that as far as who I'm working with. A handful of clients might bring it up, and I ask them if they really think they need it, especially with our climate. It's always hot here. Yes, a towel does get a little bit cold, so you could add that radiant heat. But that's something that does need to be discussed before anything starts so we can prepare for that when the remodel starts. Now, if you're up north or in a cold area, then you should definitely consider installing that because, as you know better than I do, it's pretty cold up there. I used to live in New York, so I understand the cold weather. Keep this in mind. If you don't make a decision in the planning stages and then you decide to install your flooring and then after the fact you say, oh man, we should have done it. You're not going to retrofit radiant heat after your floor is installed. That's not a thing, according to my knowledge. Maybe somebody has some special technology to where they could do it, but I personally don't know of any. Make sure you're planning for the radiant heat so you could do the proper prep and installation of it. Because after the fact, you're just going to pay twice for floor installation, plus your radiant heat and any type of work that comes along with that. Number 5, curbless showers. I love curbless showers. I think it looks good, it's clean, all that. The benefit with the curbless is for accessibility for the future, for if you're getting up there in age and you need to roll in there with a chair or anything like that, or you can't really step over a curb. That's a benefit for the curbless showers and for a modern look as well. If you want the curbless, it's definitely a possibility. It's just different ways we have to approach it depending on the design of your shower. If accessibility is a real need, we'll definitely find a way. Normally, contractors could figure out a best way to make it work for you. Number 6, cramming a double vanity into a room that doesn't have space for it. A double vanity wants at least 6 feet of wall. A lot of homeowners want to do the double vanity or the double sink, and I normally talk them out of it because if the space is not there, it's not going to be a good look and it's going to look cramped. It's just not even a comfortable place to be with 2 people standing side by side. If you have the space, then for sure do a double vanity. That's definitely a go-to type of thing to do. Number 7, statement tile on every surface. Floor pattern, shower walls, accent niche, feature wall behind the vanity, all competing. Statement tile is specifically what it sounds like. It makes a statement. If you go to an art show or something like that, I've noticed from what I could see, that you have a big room and normally you have an art piece on the wall and all the other art pieces are not close to it. They're separated, they're far away. And there's no other art pieces trying to fight for attention. And that's kind of what you want to do with your statement tile. You want its own one piece of art there. That's your statement piece. And that's it. You don't want it to compete with everything else that's so close together. Tile labor is $8 to $15 a square foot before materials. Now you could get it done for less money, but just be careful who you're hiring because you want to get somebody to do these jobs the right way. But there are people who do it for less money. But nowadays, since the tile is so big, you are paying quite a bit more money for labor compared to what you used to pay with a smaller format tile. And it's one of the easiest line items to double without noticing. I noticed that homeowners get tired of specific patterns pretty fast because they chose that pattern for a specific trend. Be careful with the trends. Some trends look cool. Some patterns look cool. But over time, sometimes that pattern gets tiring. You see it and it just feels dated. Those are the things you got to be careful when it comes to trends and patterns and stuff like that. You don't want to spend money on something that's going to get tired fast. The cost versus value data has been consistent that niche design choices drag the bathroom's return down. For reference, a mid-range bathroom model has landed around 70% return. Believe it or not, a minor update has landed around the same or better. And high-end work drops towards a third of what you spent. My advice is pick one hero surface, usually the shower wall, and let the rest stay quiet. Get something nice, but let it stay quiet. Order 10 to 15% from the same dye lot while you add it because those dye lots do change. So make sure you get enough tile for repairs. So where does it go instead? Waterproofing first. Labor and waterproofing are close to half of the bathroom budget, and it's a half you can't see or easily fix. Ventilation is second. You got to make sure that you have the properly sized fan and it's duct outside. I've seen it where some people put an exhaust fan in the bathroom or something and they have it duct inside the attic and it doesn't go outside. You want to make sure it's going out through the soffit so you don't have any type of moisture being built up in your attic or causing any type of issues in your attic. Lighting is the most underrated dollar in the room. Layered, something at face height, and a dimmer. Then valves and rough plumbing because replacing a cheap valve behind finished tile is a demolition project. Then storage, then finishes. That order is boring, but the bathrooms that my clients are happiest with 5 years later are the ones that are built that way. None of this is a rule. If you wanted a soaking tub your whole life and you're planning on staying there for quite a few years, get the tub, install the tub, enjoy it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, if I had to choose between a giant shower and a tub, I would choose a tub. You and I are on the same page. Just make it a decision instead of a default and know what it costs you somewhere else in the room. For example, if you're not sure you're going to use that, maybe you can spend that money towards something else. Maybe upgraded countertops, upgraded cabinets, or plumbing fixtures, or light fixtures, or mirrors, or maybe you could even put some of that money into your bedroom or another room, install some flooring. And there's so many different things you could do with that type of money. So if you're planning on remodel and you want someone in your corner before you sign anything, that's what I do. I do consulting. Obviously, you hear it in the name, MERLINO Consulting. I guide clients through the construction and remodeling process. I can provide scopes, plan sets, contractor comparison, and making sure the bids you're comparing are the same. Homeowners and contractors both. Reach out. Feel free to pick my brain, ask me questions. I'll be happy to try to answer them and guide you in the right way. You could check out my website. It's merlinoconsultants.com. That's MERLINOCONSULTANTS.com. And then my email, same exact thing, except with Peter at. So it's Peter at merlinoconsultants.com. If this channel has saved you money or a headache, or maybe you've learned something from it, if you want to support the show, you could buy me a coffee by either clicking on the link below, or you could scan this QR code and buy me a coffee. Until next time, plan smart, build well, and let's raise the standard together.